Okay, so this is ZBrush. Thank you. Uh, so the first time you open ZBrush, this is what you're going to see, unless you've changed some preferences, which we'll talk about later. So it brings up their what they call their home page, which is basically a set of links to web links and other assorted things that they're featuring at the moment, like the ZBrush Summit or things like that. And I have links to these things in your course modules because there are a ton of really good sources of information, tutorials, demos for ZBrush. Okay, so that's the great thing about this class is you're going to get the basics, but if you want to know more, man, there's a ton of stuff out there where you can get that information. Okay, so initially, I suggest you just close this little window. You can click this little gear to say I want this always to pop up or not, or only when things are new. So I'm just going to close that. And once you do that, this pops up. This is called the light box. And what this is essentially an archive of all sorts of things and assets that ZBrush provides for you. Okay, that the actual people makes ZBrush have contributed things, and there's all sorts of things. I'm going to do a completely separate video on the lightbox. Okay, essentially all you need to do is you can hit the comma key. Comma toggles lightbox on or off. Okay, you can also click this little button here. I'm going to hit the comma key because when you see on your screen, that little comma down there is showing you what keys I'm using. Okay, so if you ever have a question about something, what did you do to get there, you can always look back and see that on screen. Okay, so you can fast forward or rewind the video to get there. I'm also going to give you a complete list of shortcuts I use, usually per video, but there should be one of those in your module as well. Okay, so initially we get this thing up here, and the first thing you're going to be seeing here is naturally you're going to want to draw something, right? Everyone wants to play with something, and the first thing you'll do is this, and you'll go, what the heck? This isn't 3D. This isn't anything. This is actually a 2.5D, something called a pixel, P-I-X-O-L, pixel. The main thing you need to do when you see this, after you draw this, is how to get rid of it. Control N, okay? And that brings me to the difference between a Mac and a PC in ZBrush is there really isn't much of any, okay? Most of the key commands in ZBrush are single keys with a few modifiers. The option key, I'll be calling it option, it's Alt on a PC. Control and Command, 90% of the time in ZBrush are interchangeable. So if you're used to using a Mac, you can use the Command key. If for some reason it doesn't work, just use the Control key and that will work. Most of you on PCs who are used to using the Control key won't have any issues there because you'll continue to use that. Okay, so Control N just clears the screen. Okay, I'm just going to pop a model in here and drag this in. Okay, so at least we have something to look at while we're talking about the interface. Okay, you'll see here this is kind of small. I have a big screen here, so this is my actual document size right here. To change that, you go to Document up here, and I'm just going to change it to double, which means it's bigger. Okay, it says this isn't undoable. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, yes. So what happened when I did that, it actually scaled this thing up, but if I draw another sphere in here, you'll kind of see what happens, okay? Everything is still just kind of floating around, and I just keep getting, this is going to happen to all of you, I swear. How do you make this stop and just get one thing in here? Same deal as with the little square smeary things, Control N. Clears that. So what you do when you're working in ZBrush all the time, you drag in whatever it is you want to start as your model, and then you hit the T key. You can also use the edit button up here, but just remember, hit T. Once you do that, you're good to go. You can keep dragging now, and it's actually going to start moving your model in 3D space rather than continually drawing more of these things in. Okay, so if I were to just do something in here, just get rid of that. I could actually start to sculpt on this thing. Okay. And I'll talk about this later, but you don't really need to worry about this. So if I were to start, moving something around in here like this, now I actually have a 3D object inside of ZBrush, okay? Like so. I'm just going to clear that out again because you guys don't need to know about that. So you'll see I tried to clear it. I couldn't because I have it in edit mode, okay? If I turn edit mode off like this, it's going to ask me, do you want to switch to 2.5D mode? I'm going to say switch because then I can do Control N and clear that out, okay? That's as much about models as we're going to talk about right now. So you don't have to do that. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to go through the interface at this point, okay? So there's really nothing else to fuss about here, okay? Draw this in again, okay, like so. See, I did it too. Control N, like so, hit the D key. Okay, now again, if I were going to do something here, I could then start to sculpt on this thing, okay? Again, no big deal. I just want it in there so you can see what we're doing. So I have something to refer to here. So I'm going to hit the F key. That's going to scale this to the screen size that I'm at, okay? I'm going to zoom out on this. And the way you zoom out is you hold down the Control key and you right-click and you drag left or right, okay? Same thing will work with the Command key if you're on a Mac, okay? So first thing we want to look at is this top row of things, okay? These are menus up here, as you no doubt could guess, okay, like so. And what these menus are actually things that you can use in menu form, but most of the time you're not. You're going to probably be putting them into these trays over here, okay? So this tool, for instance, this is where I've got most of my stuff that I'm going to be using when I'm actually demonstrating modeling. I can get rid of this by clicking this little button right here. And then I can see that this is exactly the same menu. And you'll see if I drag my mouse over this little icon right here, I can then move this wherever I want it to be, and it's right back where it was. Okay, so for instance, if I had, let's say I wanted to put this render palette over here too, I can drag that in here as well, like so. And now I have two of these. Okay, two of these menus that are docked over in this palette, which brings me to show you how you move around these menus in ZBrush. There's a big black area to the left of this guy, and if you drag this up and down with the cursor, you can get up or down in these guys, okay? And when you click these little submenus in here, like so, these things can get really long, okay? So generally I try to just keep this to a minimum because I don't like scrolling around a lot. So I'm going to put this render one away just by clicking until I see the hand here. Boop, like so. That goes away, like that. Now I'm just back with the tool palette. Okay. So again, I'm in edit mode, and these are some 3D manipulation tools where you can actually not sculpt, but you can move your model around. This makes more sense when you have something called additional subtools in your scene, where you can actually, scale things up or down in relation to other items in there. Okay, this is called the Sculptress brush or Sculptress Pro tools. Most of the brushes will let you use this. I'll talk about that in another video. Okay, these are your color options. Okay, where you can paint with color, with material, color and a material, or with your alpha channel. I'll talk about that too. Z-add, okay, that just means it's going to sculpt on the out, or it's going to pull out when I sculpt, like so. Z-sub, as opposed to that, pushes in, okay? Now I almost never use this because if you have Z-add on and you hold down the Alt or Option key, you can get the same effect. Okay, so you can transition from one to the other very, very quickly.